think that's about us. I think maybe we get started. So, morning, my name's Zopash and I'm on the marketing team here at Bridgel. So I just wanted to thank you all for joining us for our cybersecurity session this morning. Great to see so many of you on the call with us. So just a quick note before we get started. So the session is being recorded and we will be sending out a copy of the recording and the slides after the event. So if there is anything that you want to catch up on, or if there's any of your colleagues weren't able to make it, or anything at all, you can catch up on that later on as well. You'll notice that you're on mute, but we do encourage you to use the chat function to ask any questions, and we'll do our best to answer them throughout the session. If we don't get to them throughout the duration of the session, we do have a dedicated Q&A at the end as well, so we will try our best to get them done then. And yeah, also we will send you some details as well if you want to contact us later on with any questions that you might have. So that's pretty much all the kind of housekeeping points covered. So what I'll do now is I'll pass you on to our team of experts. So we've got Craig Spears, David Sutherland, and we've also got David Oshinyemi from SentinelOne on the call as well today to give us a little demo later on in the session. So we hope you enjoy, and I'll pass over to Craig. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Zopash. Yeah, as Zopash says, my name's Craig Spears. I'm a senior cloud consultant at Bridgel, and I'll be running through this webinar. My colleague David, he'll jump in at some point, discuss a few slides, and David, who works for SentinelOne, he'll be showing a live demo of the product near the end of the webinar. So, as you can see from the title, this webinar is about how to safeguard your business with cybersecurity. So, I'll jump onto the agenda. So, we're going to discuss the current cybersecurity landscape, user awareness training, email security, vulnerability management, where David will jump in, backing up your data, tools and technology. We'll talk about Microsoft's kind of a suite of products that can protect your business, and then it'll lead on to a SentinelOne demo, and we'll discuss a cyber maturity self-assessment. It's basically a self-assessment you can actually download from the Bridgel website. I don't know if you follow Bridgel or myself on LinkedIn, but we've posted that link up. Yep, so I'll crack on. So Bridgel are based in Glasgow, just near George Square. You actually see from the kind of the office picture there, George Square in the background in the council buildings. They've got 44 staff at the moment and growing, and were established at the tail end of 2002. So last year we celebrated 20 years. Okay, and what we do is split into 4 key business areas. We've got the modern intelligent workplace, that focuses on improving employee productivity and satisfaction. They mainly deal with SharePoint and document management. You've got managed IT service support that covers security, infrastructure, and cloud services. That's the area that myself and David work in. And we've got analytics and applications. That supports and develops large-scale bespoke software solutions and covers business intelligence, MI, and data. So they're mainly dealing with Power BI and data lakes, Synapse within Azure. And we've got Trevi, which is a suite of product solutions. They're focused on the water utility sector. We're a 10 times Microsoft Gold partner, and I don't know if you know, but last year Microsoft kind of changed the gold, silver, and bronze partnerships, and we had to reapply to become a solutions partner. So we achieved the exams, the points, the credentials, and we're a solutions partner within modern work, Azure infrastructure, Azure data and AI, and Azure digital and app innovation. Okay, this picture shows a number of our customers across private and public sectors and across a number of industry verticals such as manufacturing, housing, national government, NHS, utilities, and events. Okay, so that's the sales part of Bridgel over with, so I'll go into the content of the webinar. So within this section, I'll be discussing the current cybersecurity landscape. It's always evolving, so this is data that we got from a few weeks ago. Okay, as you can see from the graphics in the slide, cybersecurity threats are on the rise due to the emergence of AI, because that allows more sophisticated targeted attacks, and ransomware remains a major threat, and supply chain vulnerabilities are being exploited. Nearly every example of AI being used now is used for malicious purposes by cybercriminals in the form of helping write phishing content, scripts, and find intelligence about vulnerabilities within specific technologies and software applications. Due to this, and due to the increase of attacks, the average cost of a data breach has increased, and some businesses have had to rebuild their business from scratch due to a cyber incident, and that cost millions of pounds. Most businesses, or most kind of clients I speak to over the years, are not set up for a resilient IT infrastructure. They've got their on-premise solution or even the cloud-based solution that used on a day-to-day basis. They've actually got a plan in place or redundancy in place if a cyber attack did happen. So this is why Bridgewell, along with our customers, are focused on improving cybersecurity to help protect organisations. So in this webinar, myself and David will go through a range of simple but effective measures. Some you probably saw before, and some you probably not saw. And you can use this to improve your protection within your business. So I'll jump into user awareness training. So a poll might appear in the chat with Sopaf. Okay, so what is causing security breaches? As you see from the graphic, 80% of data breaches are caused by human error and a lack of awareness within employees. This percentage was taken from a study between Stanford University and a top cybersecurity firm, which they found that human error is a key factor. It also found that 50% of employees are pretty sure they've made an error at work that could have led to security issues, and 45% of respondents say distraction is the top reason for falling for a phishing scam. And with the increase of remote working, 50% of remote workers admitted they're more distracted when working from home because there's more distraction. You've got parcels coming to the door, you've got the cat wanting some attention and stuff like that. And the top reasons for clicking on phishing emails are the perceived legitimacy of the email that came from a colleague you've dealt with, or your line manager, your boss, or a well-known brand. So lack of awareness within employees is a key point, and I'll go on about this in the next slide. So the graphics show the importance of user awareness training. Bridgewell worked with a company called KnowBe4, who are cybersecurity awareness training specialists, and we've started to roll this out to a number of our customers due to the increase of data breaches out there due to human error. So as I said, employees are often the weakest link in the security chain. So regular security awareness training helps educate employees about cybersecurity best practices and how to identify and avoid phishing attempts and social engineering attacks. It provides users with information linked to the importance of protecting user credentials by using complex passwords that are difficult to guess, and how to identify red flags in phishing emails and phone calls, such as suspicious email sender addresses, urgent language, or requests for personal information. Training can also provide awareness of unusual login attempts, unrecognised software installations, and would also encourage employees to report such events to your IT team. This, in turn, would then reduce the likelihood of data breaches and data leaks, because users would have a base level cybersecurity knowledge. Because as shown earlier, data breaches can be incredibly expensive, and investing in user awareness training can directly translate to cost savings as those human related breaches are reduced. So going to the cost from a data breach, they can include your legal fees associated with lawsuits, investigations, regulator fees for non-compliance with data protection laws, forensic costs to determine the root cause and scope of the breach, and importantly, damage to your brand and the reputation for a potential loss of customer base. Because once you get your systems back online, your data restored and that, you have to kind of regain that customer trust. Okay, so what training should consist of? As I said, we worked with KnowBe4, who are a training specialist, and they've recommended training should involve phishing and social engineering, password security, malware awareness, and security best practices. They've found that having regular phishing simulations, that will test users' ability to identify and avoid phishing attempts, and those regular simulations will keep users vigilant and reinforce the training concepts. Also, quarterly awareness training modules would cover various cybersecurity topics in more detail, because delivering new modules quarterly ensures users are continuously learning and adapting to evolving threats. Also, more importantly, is to tailor the training to your audience. and adapt the content to cater to different levels of technical expertise within your organisation. Make it engaging and interactive. Keep them users engaged by using training formats like videos, simulations, quizzes. And finally, measure the effectiveness. There's no point doing all this without tracking the metrics, like the phishing click rates within your business and the employees reporting of suspicious activity. And that kind of gauges the success of your training program and identifies areas for improvements and tweaks. Okay, I'll move on to email security. So as you can see from the graphic, this is the what we call the email authentication framework. You've got your SPF record, DKIM record, and your DMARC system. They work together to prevent email spoofing and phishing attacks. So I'll give you a breakdown of how they work. So SPF, as you can see from the graphic, stands for Sender Policy Framework. Imagine the SPF as a call ID for emails. It lets the receiving servers verify if an email sender address is authorized to send emails from that domain. That can prevent scammers from disguising their emails with a legitimate sender address, like your bank or a co-worker. I'll move on to DKIM, which stands for Domain Keys Identified Email. No, sorry, mail, sorry. So think of DKIM like a digital signature for emails, as a cryptographic signature to outgoing emails. And again, allows the receiving server to verify the email actually came from the supposed sender and hasn't been tampered with in transit. On top of that, you've got DMARC. That is like a policy manager for SPF and DKIM. It tells the receiving servers what to do with emails that fail SPF or DKIM checks. DMARC can instruct the server to reject, quarantine, or simply report the email. It also helps identify suspicious emails and prevent phishing attacks that might bypass SPF or DKIM. And we recommend implementing all three together because it strengthens your email security posture. You probably came across some of these email security solutions, the Microsoft one and the third-party one. They're both very similar and allow you to configure policies for anti-phishing, anti-spam, anti-malware, safe attachments, safe links, and also similar to the KnowBe4 training, you can do phishing or attack simulation training. We can simulate a phishing attack to users to help identify training needs. So you're kind of removing the human error by putting a security framework, an email security framework in place. So before that email actually comes into the inbox of the user, you know you're protected. Okay, and I'm going to move on to vulnerability management, where my colleague David will jump on and discuss that.
Thanks, Craig. Morning, everyone. My name's David Sutherland. I'm a senior cloud engineer here at Bridgell, and I'm going to discuss vulnerability management. So what is vulnerability management? Vulnerability management is the continual process of identification, remediation and mitigation against software vulnerabilities. It's well known that all modern software is susceptible to vulnerability. Now, this can either be defects in the software itself that require a patch to remedy, or configuration issues that require administrative activity to resolve. Now, the UK National Cybersecurity Centre recommends that organisations implement a vulnerability management process to ensure they're well protected against cyber attacks. It's vital that organisations understand their potential vulnerabilities and how they're able to mitigate against them. And the vulnerabilities themselves can change and evolve over time as systems are updated and as new attack techniques and vectors are discovered. Patching of operating systems and third-party applications is no longer enough on its own to secure your organisation against vulnerabilities. At Bridgell, we've partnered with an industry leader in cloud-based vulnerability scanning, Qualys. Through the use of their vulnerability management detection and response platform, we operate an effective vulnerability management program. The platform itself is constantly updated to be able to recognize newly published CVEs from MITRE and all vulnerabilities listed on them. Qualys allows us to continually scan and monitor all of our customers' endpoints and effectively identify, remediate, and mitigate against the latest vulnerabilities. In addition to endpoints, we can also provide other types of vulnerability scanning through Qualys. This can be in the form of network scanning. In this scenario, we would deploy a virtual appliance within a customer's infrastructure that would then scan for any responsive device in the network and then attempt to scan for any vulnerabilities that device would have. Additionally, we can also do web application scanning. Now, this would be where the customer has a published web application. Qualys can be said to scan the application for vulnerabilities, attempt to log into it, exploit any potential weaknesses in the application. Our endpoint vulnerability management gathers its information from an agent that's installed onto the customer devices. This in turn reports into the Qualys VMDR system. We can configure the agent to report in as frequently as every 4 hours to report potential vulnerabilities. The data is fed into a central console, which allows us to have an oversight of all our customers' estate. From here, we can create dashboards, a couple of examples seen on screen here just now, both at top level and at a customer level, which allow us to provides us with an up-to-date visual representation of any potential vulnerabilities within our customers' environments. One key criteria we include in our dashboards is the number of devices detected which are vulnerable which are vulnerable against the vulnerability which scores a 7 or higher on the CVSS rating system. Now, the key reason we use this as a metric is that a vulnerability highlighted as a score 7 or higher on the system would classify as a fail for an organization that's trying to achieve a Cyber Essentials Plus certification. Following on from dashboards, we can use Qualys to delve into the underlying data. A couple of examples seen here, we can see how many instances of vulnerabilities are present, what the severity are, and some further details of it, such as how it exploits the system. So inside Qualys, we get an idea, as I said, of severity, how many devices across your estate are impacted regardless of severity, and detailed information as to what can happen if the vulnerability is exploited, and what steps are required for us to successfully mitigate against the vulnerability. Now, mitigation itself can be achieved in a number of ways depending on what's vulnerable. Now, as mentioned before, this can still include OS patching and third-party patching. Other instances will include registry fixes, configuration changes to your environment. Another feature of the Qualys platform is the ability to produce scheduled reports. Now, this allows us to issue reports to our customers covering both high-level reporting for management and further in-depth analysis for system administrators. Now, if you do have any further questions on the vulnerability management platform or system, please feel free to drop a message into the chat and we can come back to you directly. At this point, I'll hand back to my colleague Craig for the next section. Thank you.
Thanks, David. It was good to actually get a break there so I can get a glass of water. So in this section, we're going to talk about backing up your data, which is another key, as everyone knows, is a key feature, a key you're tasked to do within your business to make sure your data is backed up. So, got two options here. Get a cloud backup, where you're taking a backup of your data, but the cloud, but the destination for the backup is cloud storage. Like back in the day, it used to be USB drives that you swap a weekly or maybe daily basis, and then put maybe in a fireproof safe, or back up to a NAS, which may be in another office. But we'd recommend the cloud backup option because if your office went down in regard to USB drive packed in or the NAS hardware packed in or stopped working, you've still got the backup within the cloud. So that means you can spin up the backup software on our machine and get the backup from there. Also, another one as it's become more popular is taking a direct replica of your setup. So imagine you had servers within a data center or on premise. So if we use Azure Site Recovery, we can set up where it takes an exact replica of your infrastructure. So that means if the data center had a failure, or it was a hardware failure, or your office had a failure, you can then spin up your replica within the cloud, and we've created scripts that can do it automatically. They can detect that your office or the source locations went down. They spin up the new environment automatically, which then allows business continuity. Also, the plus point of having a second instance in the cloud is for testing purposes as well. So imagine you want to deploy a new release to your software within that system, or test Windows updates, because as you see from Windows updates, there's a time that during Patch Tuesday, as a Windows update is released, but actually it comes to light that installing that update can then cause an issue with your server and that. So you can actually test this. You can spin up your second environment in the cloud, which doesn't impact the local environment, test the updates, and then spin it back down. So as it says, essentially focusing on disaster recovery is essentially focused on the duplication of existing infrastructure. Most clients or most businesses nowadays always have the normal backup in place, but we recommend this other layer with the replication part. Okay, we move on to immutable backups. This might be a new term for people. So it means, well, basically with traditional backups, if an attacker accesses your system, they might be able to locate and follow the path to the backup destination. So that means they would encrypt your volume shadow copies on the server, all the data on the server, and also encrypt the backup location. So immutable backups are essentially frozen once created. So once an immutable backup is taken, that's locked. It makes them unchangeable from attackers, from even system admins. So it means you always have a clean copy to restore your systems. So you can set up a policy where you do your normal backups, maybe like a few days a week, then immutable backup at the weekend. So you've always kind of got that frozen restore point if something happened or the other backups were encrypted. But in turn, that could add additional storage, take up additional storage space on where the backups are located. Also protects against the human error, which I've touched on before, that employees are the weakest link within your business, because they can delete critical data if the correct permissions are not in place in your business. So it means that even if they delete that data, you still get this, and then the backup is deleted, the data is deleted from the backup itself, you've still got this immutable backup to restore from. And you can always revert to a previous point in time if needed. Okay, here's a few of the backup solutions. You probably recognize a few of them. So Azure Backup, that can be used for your Azure environment. It can also be used for your local on-premise environment. You can actually install the Azure Backup agent on your local on-premise environment and back up to Azure storage. Azure Site Recovery, I've touched on that with the disaster recovery solution in regards to spinning up or replicating your on-premise environment to Microsoft Azure. And you probably saw a number of the third parties, Veeam, Datto, Wasabi. Wasabi is fairly new, but it's been 1 or 2 years now. But that's solely a cloud storage solution. But the benefit of this is the cloud bucket that's created, or the cloud storage solution, is hot storage. So that means it's faster latency times to restore the data. If you get MSP60. So all these third parties can be used to back up your environment. Okay, so I'm going to move on to, as I touched on before, we've got David in the chat, or in the webinar. He's going to do a live demo of SentinelOne. Before that, I'm going to touch on some Microsoft, the suite of tools that can help protect your business. So from this graphic here, we've broken down the advanced suite of security features into 4 critical areas: into identity and access management, threat protection, information protection, and security management. So for identity and access management, these tools are designed to protect the accounts of your users and the ability to access your data and settings. So tools such as Entra ID protection and Microsoft Defender for Identity are designed to use Microsoft insights into account behaviors within your environments to identify any risks. Also, the additional conditional access, you can actually, with conditional access, you can set it where only users within the UK can access their data. Because we had an issue a few weeks ago We used conditional access for individual where one of the employees went away on holiday and opened up his laptop and was ready to work on his laptop, and it turned out that he couldn't work on it because we'd blocked that access. You've also got technologies such as Windows Hello and Windows Credential Guard. They're designed to remove reliance on user passwords to gain access to device and data, instead utilising user biometrics or access pins in combination with device hardware security. You probably see it all the time now with your bank app on your phone, LinkedIn, Instagram, X, etc. They're trying to move away from you trying to remember a password. So they're trying to get you to use your biometrics, your thumb, your face, and even Google's starting to force passkeys on some of their applications where there's no requirement for a password. Also, we've got privileged identity management. That would be new for some people. That allows you to utilise the principle of least privilege. So it means you can grant access to protected resources and settings on an ad hoc request-based system for a limited period of time. So imagine someone had to access a certain part of the Microsoft 365 admin center as your admin center. So they would request that permission. I would get sent to a system admin. They would look at it, verify the risk, and probably enable it for a limited period of time. Compared to the old days or years ago where the user would have a permanently elevated access right. You've also got threat protection. As it says, it's designed to protect the organisation against global cyber attacks. You've got Defender for Endpoint, Microsoft Defender for Cloud, which covers the Azure environment, and you get Intune and Windows Autopilot, which work well together. Because with Windows Autopilot, you could have it where, because it's tied into Intune, if you buy a device from a certain provider, you would provide them the Windows Autopilot details. So it means a device can be shipped out to the user, to the remote worker, fully set up, as in fully joined to the domain, and all the apps and all the security settings and all the antivirus settings just there out the box. So all they do is log in and that's it. They've got a secure device working from home. We've also got information protection. That's tools that are designed to help you discover, classify, protect sensitive information within your business, regardless of where it may be stored or accessed. So with this, the first thing you want to do is you want to identify a data landscape. It's understand how your sensitive data is used, where it lives, and how it's accessed. And with this, you can create protection policies to keep data safe by labeling and classifying your data. Because going back to the human error, we've got internal risk, and that accounted for almost 35% of unauthorized access breaches last year. And that was data leakage, compliance violations, and intellectual property theft. So the best approach to addressing cyber risk is a holistic approach, trying to get the right people, processes, training, and tools, for example, the Microsoft suite of tools. And it means you can prevent data loss by putting the correct access controls in place with policies enabled to prevent actions like mistakenly saving, storing, or printed sensitive data. Okay, you've got security management, which is, I'm not getting screenshots, but it's the main admin centers for these tools. So it's like a single pane of glass that you can go in and look at the risks, configure policies, etc. So that's been discussed, Microsoft suite of tools. So I'm going to move on to colleague David. He's going to discuss SentinelOne, how it's better than a legacy AV product, and run through a demo of it. So, do I take over?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thanks, Greg, for that. So, you can just give me the access to change the slides. I cannot change the slides. Okay. That's fine. So my name is David Oshinemi. I'm a pre-sales consultant here, and I mainly deal with SentinelOne. So if you go to the next slide. So what is SentinelOne and how did it come about? So how is it different than traditional AVs? So it basically SentinelOne saw a gap in the market where the way that it was done traditionally, so it was done through either signature-based detection, where signature-based detection is okay, but it provides you with zero kind of like zero protection against zero-day attacks. By zero-day attack, I mean attacks that haven't been out yet or that nobody has seen beforehand. So they don't provide any protection against that because there is no signature for that kind of threat. The next thing that came around is the idea of heuristics. Now, heuristics looks at basically how for signs of malicious activity. Now, the problem with heuristics was that it created too many false positives. So that means that your admin got just spammed with loads of kind of like alerts for things which were absolutely benign. So Sentinel-1 trained multiple AI-based engines in order to perform this kind of remediation. So in order to do this, it's important to know here that what this provided us is the ability to automatically remediate a threat, whether that's a zero-day attack or whether that's a known threat already. And not only that, it also provides us with the, because these engines are pre-trained, that means that they're extremely lightweight on your actual endpoint. So they roughly take about 3 to 4% of the CPU. Now, obviously, that usage does go up when the threat is detected. That doesn't know, but that's one of those that's important. So the next thing that to mention here is that the agent is fully autonomous. So that means it doesn't rely on the cloud in order to do any of its remediation. And it's backwards compatible to like Windows XP, Server 2003, etc., etc. Now, it works on most OSs, so that's including Linux, Macs, Windows, and so next slide. If we go to the next slide. So not only does it work on all of these and provides you with those things, it also allows you to feed all the data that it has learned to a data lake. That means that it's able to feed data from things such as your emails, your SASE, your web into the data lake to enhance its ability to actually protect your endpoints from it. So if we go to the next slide. So why is Sentinel-1? So if we just click 3 slides ahead here, so it will populate 3. Go back, that's one. Yeah, there we go. So basically, one thing that to note from this slide is that it's 97% customer renewal. That means that most people that pick Sentinel-1 stay with Sentinel-1 because of how easy and how good it actually is. Not only that, it is in the Gartner top right-hand corner. That means that it is a market leader when it comes to endpoint protection. And as you can see, there's a quite high rate in terms of like, in terms of what people like about it. Just one more thing before we move on to this, to the next slide, is that the MITRE ATT&CK framework has got a competition every year, basically about where it compares all the different antivirus products and endpoint protection products and sees which one's the best. And Sentinel-1 has continuously proven to be the best at this. So it's not only us saying this, it's actually other third parties which are not associated with us saying that. So if you go to the next slide. How does this AI-based engines work? So obviously, I've talked about this AI-based engines. So there's 2 types of engines that come with Sentinel-1. There is the real-time analysis engines, which are the static engines, which looks at like how a firewall looks and like whether it looks malicious. And then we have our behavior engines. Now, the behavior engines, those are for your zero-day attacks. Those are for the threats that we don't know about, you don't know about, nobody has seen it beforehand. And the problem with those is that basically, how do you protect yourself? This is where you look at the behavior of the actual malware and how it progresses through your network and react whether then you decide whether it's malicious or benign from that. Now, when it comes to remediation, Sentinel-1 not only has its standard killing quarantine, which comes with most endpoint protection products, but what it also has is got remediation and rollback. So what is remediation and what is rollback? Remediation is the idea of using shadow copies it's the idea of deleting all the files and system changes which were created by the threat. But how do we know the files and system changes which were created by the threat? The reason why we know all the files and system changes created by the threat is because SentinelOne injects itself into any of the processes which starts and looks whether it's acting maliciously or benign. So that means that from the get-go, we're able to actually say what processes has been spawned from that, so we can see all the system changes which were created by the threat. Now, the rollback feature is what I accidentally kind of misspoke at the beginning, is the idea of using shadow copies in order to be able to restore your system to how it was before the attack. Now, the idea of rollback is like the nuclear option. Like most of the time, you will never get to that stage because remediation will be good enough for you. Now, if you do get to the rollback stage, in order for it to work, it takes roughly about 10% of your disk space. And not only does it protect your shadow copies, it protects the shadow copies which are already on the Windows Server device. And from that, it can restore things. So, and finally, you not only want to be, all of these things that I've been saying are very reactive towards the threat. You want to be actually proactive. And it does this through the idea of a skylight response. Now, what is skylight? So just as I mentioned, you're able to feed all of kind of information into this data lake. And from this, you can actually make queries on your endpoint. So, for example, let's say you have somebody that visited a malicious domain, and you want to know, okay, has anybody else in my organization visited that domain? You can actually search for that in Skylight. You can search for certain processes, etc. So now, enough about me looking at the slides. Let's have a quick look at the demo. So if I go ahead and share my screen here. So hopefully you guys can see this. So what we have here is we have a Windows endpoint with a SentinelOne agent installed on it. So how does a SentinelOne agent look? So if we go ahead and click on it here, this is what you'll see. Now you see that there's no threat history and you've got some agent details. What we also have here is a picture of, let's say, Bobby with us, hopefully, and we have also some corporate emails. Now, obviously, this is meant to be more akin to like an endpoint, an end user's computer. So just have some little bits and bobs on it. But what they also have is this exchange rate file, which is a malicious file. Now, obviously, there is numerous ways that a user might have got this. Might have got this malicious file, but this is just one of them. So as soon as I click this allow updating, the actual virus would have spread, but this is more akin to a demo. So we have this trusty start attack button here. So if we go ahead and click that, and what we'll see is that a suspicious threat has been detected. So in order to actually see the suspicious threat, we go on the incident section here, and we have a look at it. So the first thing to note here that the threat status has not been mitigated. The reason why this has not been mitigated is because I'm showing you actually manual remediation. So if this was a live environment, there is a section in the policy where you can actually change it to the automatic remediation. So you wouldn't have to go through this process yourself. It would be done automatically for you. Now, next thing to note is that the AI confidence level is suspicious. Now we have the path here where this actual file came from and the command line argument. The reason why it might look a bit strange is because it was a macro that actually started this. The next thing that we now have here is the SHA-1 file. And it also, if you right-click on it, it has a link to VirusTotal. Now, VirusTotal is a website with loads of different SHA-1 files. And as you saw, when I tried to search for this SHA-1 file, nothing came up. So this is more akin to a zero-day threat than it is akin to something that has been seen beforehand. So how does SentinelOne deal with it? So the first thing that you notice here is that the engine that picked this up is the document and script engine. And this is a behavior engine. The detection type was dynamic. And the classification now has changed from suspicious to malicious now, and gave it a classification of malware. Now, on your right here, this is where SentinelOne integrates with the MITRE ATT&CK framework. So the MITRE-ATT&CK framework basically provides the attack matrix behind Sentinel-1, where you will see some techniques and tactics which were explored by this threat. So, for example, this threat has explored the idea of, let's say, deleted persistence. So the idea of sometimes what malware uses is the idea of scheduled tasks. So therefore, it will put a scheduled task, so rerun itself upon like a certain day. So therefore, if you restart your computer, nothing will happen because this scheduled task will say, okay, rerun this malware. Now, because it detected that, it's able to then say, okay, this is more akin to like, this is this threat that is predicted and this is what happened to it. And now you can actually find out more information about this. So if you actually click onto one of these things, you can actually see, okay, this is what the scheduled task provides you, and this and it will just give you like some references as well from the MITRE website. Now, what we see actually is the detection has got enough information to classify as a ransomware. Now, what gave it this ransomware classification? One of the things that we can see here is that deleting of shadow copies. So obviously, I just showed you the idea of shadow copies is that they allow you to restore your actual system back to how it was before the attack. So obviously, a malware threat would want to delete them. So this is how we know that it performed that action. But so what Sentinel-1 did, that it said, to this malware threat, this action has been completed, but in fact, it actually protected those shadow copies. The next thing that we come on here is this idea of the Explore tab. So I mentioned briefly about injecting itself into the process at the very beginning. So this is what Sentinel-1 refers to as the storyline. And as you can see, these are the multiple different processes that actually opened up from that single processes. You can actually click on each one of these processes and it will give you the command that was actually used, etc. Now, what the view that I like the most, however, is this view at the bottom, which gives you a second-by-second breakdown of what exactly happened to your system. So as you can see, we have some file deletions, file creations, file modifications, etc. What we also have here is this indicators. So what indicators were used to actually give you that, that ransomware command? So these are the indicators. You can actually click on each one of these individually, and it will actually filter the indicators for each one of these events individually as well, etc. So let's go back quickly and let's have a look at our actual endpoint itself. So the first thing that we notice here is that we can no longer open Bobby up, hopefully. We can no longer open Bobby up. And the next thing that you notice is the actual file got encrypted. Now, most AV, traditional AVs has no protections against this. So therefore, what they will see is this will take days for them to recover. This will need the, you need to use backups, like Craig said beforehand. You need to use backups in order to restore this. So how does Sentinel-1 deal with this threat? So if I just close this and quickly go back, I got signed out for some reason. So let me just quickly sign back in here. So yeah, this is where we're back. So in order to actually mitigate this threat, we go on action, mitigate action. Now, please do remember that all of this would have been done automatically for you if you set the correct policy. But again, this is more, I want to show you how the engines behind of how Sentinel-1 works and what it's doing behind this kind of like automatic remediation. So we're going to complete all of these actions, because our actual copies got encrypted, so we actually do want to roll back now. We're going to mark it as a result, and we want to give it a true positive rating. We're going to give it an incident number, so let's say incident 1. And we're going to go ahead and click apply. Now, we'll have a look at the timeline here. And the timeline basically says, Okay, second, well, it doesn't give you a second by second breakdown, but it gives you the main kind of bits that it used, kind of like the main actions that were performed. And so one of the things that you'll notice here is that the confidence level went from suspicious here of this threat, then it turned from suspicious to malicious, and then I performed some actions, such as, for example, let's see. So remediation, quarantine, etc. So let's go back to our endpoint, and hopefully we'll have all our files back with us. And so we have our dog back with us, but what we also have back with us is, hopefully this copy back with us as well. So yeah, so it's taking its time, but yeah, we also have our documents back with us. So just before we end this, I've got a couple of things to notice. First, if we go back to our console, we remediated 100 threads in 100 milliseconds. We rolled back 260 threads in 5 seconds. So something that would have taken you days, maybe months, took you seconds, max minutes. Yeah. And finally, just to note here that this exchange rate file is now gone as well. So thank you very much for that. And Craig, if I just pass it back to you now. So if I go ahead and close that.
You're on mute, Craig. You're on mute.
We got you. No, thanks, David. Yeah, as I say, it's good to see Bobby's back. We see the picture of the dog. You know what I mean? So that's good. So I'm just going to get a few slides to go through. I'm conscious of time. So with this one, I'm going to discuss a CSOC, which stands for a Cybersecurity Operations Centre. So with this, we've got as David showed, with Sentinel-1, you can set up automation policies that if a device got infected, it would automatically roll back to the clean version. So this is similar to a CSOC, because the issue right now is managed IT support will work 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 that, but what happens between the hours through the night when an attack does happen? So with a CSOC system, that uses connectors. It's got network connectors, user login connectors, machine connectors. So it's gathering all this information, and it's using AI, and there's a team of experts that work 24/7, 365 days a year, providing real-time threat monitoring and guidance. So it means that you've got around the clock coverage. So it means that when you leave work at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m., you know your system is still protected all through the night and all that stuff. So this is something that's it's actually become more and more popular over the years now. Like Microsoft had their own version, Microsoft Sentinel, and you've got a Datto version. In this instance, we're discussing Barracuda, and Sentinel-1's actually got their own version of it. That means so, because basically they say the critical first hour, the first hour of breach is the most critical time. That's when containment and mitigation are most vital, because during that time, if there's a suspicious activity or something gets in your system, it then will have time to spread through your system. So with this 24/7, 365 software, it can actually block that. It can block that user sign in. It can isolate that device. It can disconnect that network path it's using and all that stuff. So we could actually spend a whole webinar discussing about this. I mean, so I thought I'd just give a brief overview of it, and we can send some information out to you about it as well. Okay, finally, I'm going to move on to as I touched on before, the cyber maturity self-assessment. So, as I said, if you follow Bridgel on the social media on LinkedIn, or follow myself on LinkedIn, we've provided links to our website where you can actually download a self-assessment form. You can actually critique your own cybersecurity posture. That means so you get beginner, intermediate, and advanced. So beginner is the kind of first line defense, I would say. having a password policy, MFA, having AV machine and all that. You get intermediate where XDR endpoints, so that's going away from the old antivirus, I'd say, and going to the more advanced antivirus that David showed with the SentinelOne product. DNS filtering, risk assessment, that's looking at your business as a whole and what risks are there. And that ties in nicely to having an incident response plan, which is a more advanced cybersecurity defense. Because what happens if your business, if an attack happens? And so basically, your business gets encrypted. Who do you contact? What procedures are put in place to restore the data, and do you speak to customers and stuff like that? So, Zopash will drop this into the chat, so you can download it, and any question about it, feel free to reach out to Bridgel, and we can have a quick chat to go through it with you. Because we do offer a free 2-hour cybersecurity assessment for new customers. That's just a picture of the guide there. So I think that's it. So as Zopash said at the start, any questions you've got, just put them in the chat. I see it's quite busy, and my boss Ken Wilcox, he's happily going through the questions. I mean, so if there's anything else, just add it there. And yeah, thanks for attending, and hopefully you knew some of the information that we discussed, and hopefully there was some new information that you want to speak to us about.
Craig, I was going to say there was a couple of questions regarding SentinelOne. I don't know if David wants to answer any of those. I mean, I think they have been answered in the chat already, but just in case you wanted to add anything else.
Yeah, with SentinelOne, is like I see Steve. Thanks for asking the question. Any idea of price or many options? Yeah, there's a few options. There's different layers to SentinelOne. There is like everything else nowadays. So, but we can happily discuss it with you. I don't know if David's still on.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Yeah.
So I believe the first question was how much resources does the software need? I didn't answer it. It roughly takes about 3 to 4% of the CPU usage. This usage does go up when the threat is detected, or for example, when it is scanning the hard drive. So what SentinelOne will do is there is an option to turn this off or turn this on, but by default this is turned on, that as soon as it gets installed onto the endpoint, it will scan your entire hard drive for any kind of basically any kind of threats on your hard drive itself. And obviously that usage, because it's scanning the entire hard drive, that usage will go up. You can turn this feature off, but it's something that I would recommend to give at least a hard drive scan. Just a quick thing to mention before, because I completely forgot this, but because it uses AI to actually, this engine does not require you to update it that often. It requires an update once every 3 to 4 months as well. So it doesn't require as many updates as you would get with other products. And yeah, I believe, let's see if there's any more. Also, is it for any type of business? Yeah, it's for any type of businesses. So what it usually does is it's quite scalable, quite easily from, I have customers which have 50 endpoints installed to customers that have got tens of thousands. So yeah, it's very scalable and works fine for small to medium businesses as well.
Yeah, and going back to the resource usage on the device, I've used Louise at Bridgel. I've not noticed any slowdown on my laptop in regards to working away and all that stuff. And I've used other products in the past that if you brought up Task Manager, that product would be at the top of the list. So SentinelOne is, even though it's doing a lot of stuff, I mean, you saw it with the demo David showed, it's not going to slow down your system. And as Ken says, there's no server required. It's a cloud-based service portal. So you don't have to install like a big endpoint manager piece of software on the server, and then all your endpoints speak to that. Just all speak to the cloud.
So the next question was, does it require much resources from the IT department to manage and respond? The whole idea of it is no. So that was one of the main drivers for why SentinelOne became so successful. It's because it doesn't require all the. So there is a couple of modes. So the policies are quite simple. You have either malicious threats on protect or detect, or suspicious threats on protect and detect. And all you have to do is just say whether you want to do it automatically, that's when it's on protect mode, or whether you want to do it manually, that's when it's in detect mode. Now, if you do choose to do in protect mode, both modes in protect, it doesn't require anything for the IT department. The IT departments will be alerted to it by like an email notification or a syslog if that's what you're using. But no, it doesn't require much resources from the IT department.
Okay, I think, well, maybe a bit kind of ahead of time, but I think if there's no any other questions just now, I think maybe we'll probably wrap it up there. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us for the session today. I hope you found it useful. So just to let you know, we'll be sending you out a follow-up shortly, so that'll have the recording and the slides on there. So if you do want to catch up with anything, just want to say a big thank you to Craig, David and David for the session, the very insightful session, and the demo as well from SentinelOne. Yeah, we hope you enjoyed it. So in the meantime, if you do have any other questions, I know what it's like, you'll remember later on, please do get in touch with us at contact@bridgel.com. We also have some other webinars coming up in the future, so we will give you details for those as well. I'll pop everything in the chat for you so you can catch up there as well. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to see you at another webinar in the future. Thank you so much. Bye.
Okay, thanks. Thanks.
Thank you.